Welcome to Catfish Weekly, along with James Smith. I'm Lyle Stokes. And James, we got some fun going to happen tonight. We got a friend of yours on the show with us tonight and his son.
Yes, sir. Team Wampus Cat. Appreciate y'all coming in, fellas.
We happy to be here. We've hit the big time.
We've been. Oh, somebody's not shut off.
Me.
Y'all got another device on over there with a volume on it?
Nope, it was me.
Oh.
Last time I done that, Doc Lang was sitting here laughing at me.
We got a pile of people in here tonight too, Lyle.
Do we? I haven't really caught that, but yeah, it looks like a chat. Cindy, I walked in the other room and Cindy said chat was really flying by. There's Catfish and Crappie and Chunky and Fishing with the Chad, Mike Sampson, Josh Monarch, Fin Seeker TV, D, Joe Buck, Brandon Cross, Avid, Ace. There's a whole bunch of them in there. We'll get back to some more of you guys here in a little bit. Kentucky Catman, Ed Crothers, Catfish Stalkers Outdoors with Captain Greg Alala. There's a bunch of them in here tonight, James, so we should have a great show. My Red Festiva. How you doing, buddy?
Yep. I'm showing 51 people in chat. Guys, we appreciate you coming in. Don't forget to share the bait, share the love, and check each other's channel out. And let's share some love with Wampus Cat and his son, Gavin. Appreciate you coming in, Justin and Gavin.
Justin, you have a YouTube channel. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find your content and watch your videos right quick? Then we'll do that again before we close the show tonight.
The Wampus Cat Outdoors. It's mainly me and the kids doing catfish. We do other kind of fishing too, but that's the only film on there is catfishing. Well, I say we do other kind of fishing. We do a lot of bait fishing for catfish. So, but it's Team Wampus Cat Outdoors on YouTube.
Awesome.
There's a turtle bite video. I got a video of I let a cooter bite me, and that's about it.
Thank you, PD. We appreciate it much. James, why don't you take off and ask these gentlemen some questions? You're a lot more familiar with them than I am, although I watch a lot of their videos.
Yeah, Justin Gavin always very entertaining on a lot of y'all's videos. Like I told them a few minutes ago while we was off the screen, guys. I was sitting there watching a video about a biting blue catfish, and I think we all can relate to some of that. But that was a good-sized catfish that clamped down on your finger in that video, wasn't it?
That was pre-spawn, and it seemed like every catfish we caught that night was a male, and they were all mean. We got bit. Good Lord Almighty, this hammer.
Yeah, he was hanging from your finger. You had him up in the air. And he wasn't letting go by one finger, and I know you lost some meat on that one.
8-year-old girl when he had a hold of me.
But now, on the waters you fish, you mainly like fishing Lake Baden and North Carolina. Tell us why you prefer that lake to a lot of other lakes that you do get to fish.
Honestly, because it's smaller. It's a smaller body of water. I don't have to look as much for big fish, and they pump a lot of current through that lake. I like fishing current. I grew up with Dad fishing on Santee in the canal. It relied heavily on the flow, so I just kind of like a river. I fish in the river section, so that's why I like.
We lost him.
Yeah, he's up there at an iffy place. Sometimes he got good signal, sometimes he don't. He'll be right back, maybe.
He'll come back in. In the meantime, let's welcome Carl Wells into the show. PD Catfishing, Pop Twerking Monkeys, Ohio Cat Chasers, Mike Sampson, Half Crazy Catfishing, Fishing with the Squirrel. Let's see. Who else we got in there, James?
I see Muskrat and Avid.
Glenn.
They got by so fast. Glenn's in the house tonight.
John Patrick III.
Yes, sir.
S. Smith is in here, which he is in a lot of things. Seen him in in Chunky's show last night. Very entertaining. I missed Kevin's Palmetto Cat thing last night. I happen to be fortunate enough that my daughter's boyfriend is here at the house. He's been here the last couple of days. He's been helping me work on my boat. We've got the carpet stripped out. Well, he does. Got the carpet stripped out of it and working on fixing broken pumps and stuff in it. This thing's set for a couple years, so we're getting it all back together. We're putting my D&T live well in it. And I was supposed to get a bait tank a couple years ago from a guy, and he never did. I actually sold the one I had and I should have kept it. So I'm actually trying to put one in it now too. That way that we can get it all back together, so we can get this thing ready. Hell, I'm ready to fish, James.
Yeah, I bet you are. They back.
Yeah, they are.
We're in the hills, man. We're in the hills.
It happens. We'll make it work. If it happens again, we'll just go on with something else. Do you come back in?
Y'all are a whole lot better talking than I am anyway.
Oh, you got a storm up there right now? Because it's storming like crazy here.
Yeah, it's starting to roll in. So we just heard it earlier.
Yeah. So,
you guys are doing something wrong. We get a little rain once in a while, but every time I talk to James, it's raining out there. You guys are going to have to talk to the big man or something to get that water shut off.
Well, we got mountains on one side and beaches on the other, and it seems like when that stuff comes across them mountains, it'll hammer us in the evenings. And normally North Carolina don't get this kind of weather, but this year we've been getting hammered, son.
You all safe from the hurricane?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
If you can call it that.
You guys that live out in that area that are within driving range of each other, there's a ton of you.
Yeah.
But now you was talking about baiting in your current. Now you hardly ever even try to drift that water. You're mainly anchored up on that lake, right?
I don't even have a trolling motor on my boat.
Right.
What? No trolling motor.
No trolling motor. I don't drift at all.
But now you will be.
Yeah, I'm gonna start when I rebuild. I'm gonna redo the pontoon totally this fall. And I've got an Altera I'm going to put on it and start trying to drift fish. But yeah, we anchor fish. I seem to. Well, I used to drift fish a lot, but I always caught the eaters, what I call them. The 15-pound fish. I'm not a snob, but I want to catch big fish. I don't want to catch 15-pound fish. But
I think everybody enjoys catching big fish. I prefer to eat the small ones. But I do enjoy catching the big ones. But to tell you the truth, I like catching them little ones too. I don't call none of them unless I just throw them back.
Yeah.
But I like catching all of them. I like catching bluegill.
Oh, yeah.
That's the hardest fighting fish for size
that
I know of.
Yeah. But I have a disdain for channel catfish.
You don't like them?
Well, just where we fish, they don't get big, 3-4 pounds.
That's what James says.
And they're just aggravating, just kill us. When you're out there trying to catch big fish and those small ones just peck, just drives me crazy.
I promise.
Water possums.
If you ever get a chance, you guys need to take a trip to Wisconsin and go to Madison, Wisconsin, and get on Lake Cherokee and Lake Mendota, and you'll get tired of throwing back 20-pound channel cat.
Oh, I don't think I'd get tired of that.
I'm telling you, they fight as hard as anything you ever seen. I never had so much fun as Cindy and I did the 3 days that we spent up there. It was either 3 or 4 days. I think it was 3 days. But we caught, we was there 2 days before we caught one that was under 15 pounds.
Good Lord.
Yeah. They was all big. And I think the smallest one we caught in those days we was up there, it was 12 pounds, I think. But it was in May, right before they went on spawn, and they was up in 2 foot of water, getting ready to spawn and feeding up, and we was catching them on chunks of bluegill, about that big.
Wow.
And just, laying them out. That Bobby Vargas and Troy Hansen was in an old boat up there, a Troy's, before he got his new one. It was a little bitty old blue boat, and they was catching them so fast, and it was pouring down rain that the water was standing about that deep in their boat, and they was catching them, released them in the bottom of the boat. And he said, "Come here, you ain't never seen nothing like this." And I drove over there, and them fish was swimming around between their feet, and they just kept catching them and taking them off the hook and throwing, and you just couldn't stop. It was the most addictive thing you ever seen.
I could get into that kind of.
I'm telling you, it was a blast, and we caught some great fish up there. The biggest one we caught was my personal best channel cat, weighed 29.9 or 29.85 or something like that, and it was like a 40-pound blue, and fought a lot harder.
Per pound, they fight as harder than any of them.
Oh
Honestly.
yeah, it was awesome. That's a great fishery. Back in those days, I don't know what they're doing now. They didn't want tournaments going up in there, and I agreed with that. That's such a fine place to go, and the people up there really don't eat them, so they just throw them back, and you get the honors of catching them time after time after time. So if you ever get a chance to go up there, you will enjoy yourself. I promise.
Really, that's awesome. I could do that.
Now, Justin, you can ask Lyle about them crappie you catch in that pond. He might have seen them before. I've never seen them.
Oh, you ever saw the crappie with the black stripe down the nose?
I have.
Yeah, we've got a pond here behind the house, and it is loaded with those things.
Oh man, they're beautiful fish.
Well, are those hybrids or something?
I don't think so. I think they're just black crappie.
Really?
I think so. In Missouri, they have two kinds of crappie. They have white and blacks.
Yeah, we have one here.
Yeah, and I think those are just black crappie. I don't know, unless they're intermingled with something else out your way, but them babies get that skillet.
It's like somebody took a Sharpie and drew right down the center of their head all the way down.
Yeah, but once they get in that skillet, it don't make no difference.
You know,
it don't make no difference. Them catfish does it, Justin.
You use it for bait.
Yeah.
I would love to do that because I understand they're great bait. We can't use them in Missouri for bait, but once they get in the skillet, it's over, buddy. I'm telling you, they are fine eating.
Oh yeah.
Doc Lane's in the house tonight. Doc, I tried to call you a little while ago. Give me a holler tomorrow. I apologize for not getting back to you the other day when you called. I do apologize. All right, now, Justin. Now, when they pulling water up there, your main thing is to head up towards the main river section of that water, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's some cuts up there and bends in the river channel. But this time of year, when they start pulling water, I like to fish the flats around mussel beds, post spawn. They're in there feeding up. The other night we caught all those big fish. All of them had mussels in their belly, and they're feeding.
Gotcha. So you thinking when they're coming off the spawn and stuff like that to go ahead and get something in their belly, they loading up on mussel?
I think so. I really do. They seem to congregate. And I know I'm not one of those fishermen that fishes spots. You know, you're not supposed to fish spot, but there's a couple spots on that lake, pre-spawn and post-spawn, that just work for me year after year.
But now, if you go back to them spots during the wintertime or something like that, are them fish there, or is it?
No.
So it's.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's all related to the spawn up there, those spots. In wintertime, I fish a different part of the lake.
Got you. So when you was out there, first time you went to that waters, what made you make that decision to fish that area? Was it something that I know you love navionics. You study navionics, and I know you getting Gavin into learning the navionics part of it, which is a good thing. But there's something about that water that drew you up there. What do you think it would be?
I read about the current, number one, and that's just kind of home to me, you know, fishing the current, finding the current. For not pulling, you know, in Santee, if they're not pulling water, you know, the old rule of thumb was for not pulling water, stay out of the river.
Right.
So I knew they pulled a lot of water up there, and I studied navionics and the ledges and the drop-offs, and did a lot of research on YouTube, what guys said, you know, and that's what put me up there.
So it pays to pay a little bit of attention to social media also, along with the other tools that you have.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've learned more on YouTube than I ever did on my own watching people. So
Gavin, are you learning that new depth finder he's got on that boat?
That's like a dang iPad, man. I really don't know what to do with it.
What kind is it?
it's the new Helix 12 Mega.
I just got rid of a boat that had one of those on it. Them are amazing piece of equipment.
I'm telling you, I've been a Lowrance person forever. And old Richard Warski, I fished some tournaments with him, and he used Humminbird. And another guy that fishes tournaments, Shane, they kind of converted me to the dark side. Like them. I've still got all the rants on the boat. I run it just for my GPS.
Yeah.
2 units.
Old Doc Lang's as good with a Lowrance as anybody I ever seen. I've had guys tell me they could do this with one and do that with one, and they try to show me stuff, and they couldn't do what they thought they could do. And old Doc get in there and he pushed a couple of buttons on one that's kind of messed up, and it's like a brand new machine.
Really?
I mean, he's as good with the Lowrance as there ever has been that I know of. And me, I like them birds. I had I couldn't wait to get rid of that Lowrance. I never hate is a terrible word. But I hated that thing from the day I seen it till the day I got rid of it. And the bad part is it might come on one day and it might not the next. And you'd be driving down thing and it just go out and maybe it'd come back on, maybe it wouldn't. And we checked every connection, soldered everything on it. Didn't make no difference. Sent it in, it come back, done the same thing. If it come down to fishing with one of those and not having anything, I just do without.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah. But now them Humminbirds, I've had them for my whole life, and that was a change that I didn't want and didn't like. And I can do stuff with birds because I can. And Doc get in there and he just make that thing talk to you. You know, I mean, he was amazing with it. And I do the same shit he do, and I couldn't get it to do nothing. You know, but old Doc, he can make it work now. He's the best with them I ever seen.
Yeah, I used to watch a lot of his videos. I guess seminars he did at Catfish conference and stuff on when I was trying to figure. And like you said, listening to him, I think, well, I can jump out there on mine and do that.
We've actually been in the boat, and people call him and ask him questions about their Lowrance, and he'd walk them through how to do it on the phone.
Really?
Absolutely. And when I was trying to get the information off of that Lowrance and put it on a Humminbird, he was in Ohio and he walked me through sticking an SD card in there and getting it downloaded so I could download it back in a Humminbird. He knew exactly how to do it. Didn't have to look. He just walked me through it. Now the man knows his stuff about them Lowrances now. He got it figured out.
That's the man I need to talk to then. I got Jeff's old HDS 8 with the box on it, and I mean that's upgrade for me, but it's still I'm just not tech savvy, so I'm lost with that rascal. I left it on whatever Jeff had it set on. That's what I left it at. But now let's take it to Santee, Justin. You fished down to Santee just about all your life.
Mm-hmm.
Which lake do you prefer to fish on down there? There's two of them.
I like the upper lake.
So which one is that? Moultrie, or is that the lower lake?
Well, see, the upper lake's Marion, lower lake's Moultrie. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, I think so. Right. I had them backwards.
And I'll tell you why I like the upper lake. One reason is we were down there one year. I was a kid, and we were coming out of the lower end, the canal going into the lower lake, and we had a wind blowing back up the canal towards the current. And there was a roller came over. We were on Jeff Cash's boat, and it caved in the cage around the front of his pontoon. And it terrified me, scared me.
Get it on your phone.
And I've never liked it. I know a lot of people,
Yeah.
but I like to up in the trees. That's just my favorite place.
Right.
All right.
So now down there, you hardly ever fished the deeper water on Santee, did you?
You know, we always fish shallow. I mean, I like shallow water, 15 foot or less. What I like.
Yeah, that's that's something I learned from you back in January and February when we hit that daggum 4 foot of water, throwing up in 2 foot of water, catching 30s and 40s and 20s. It just all my life I heard wintertime, deep water, catfish, deep water.
Yeah.
And throwing up in that shallow water and watching some of the fish tail walk and stuff is just amazing to me. That guys, if you do not shallow water fish or give it a try, you are missing out. Lost. That right there is the perfect opportunity to throw them floats or to free line.
That's
Also,
right.
I love free lining, and that shallow water is amazing. Justin has turned me on to a type of fishing that I never knew about. Well, I never thought about.
I love it.
Chase bass in shallow water and brim, but never really thought about catfish because of the miss.
Yeah.
There's a lot to miss, guys. They got there for a reason, but think outside the box because
That's right.
Justin showed me you need to think outside the box.
Always
This right here, to me, in shallow water, would be your friend.
Yes, sir.
I
Yep.
just can't imagine too much of anything working any better than that would in shallow water. I think that would be your buddy.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a little bit better than free lining. Free lining, you better be a line watcher. You better know where that bait is all the time. I've had them son of a guns. You never see the rod move, and that daggum line's on the other side of the boat underneath. You done tangled every freaking thing you got up.
Oh,
He done swam around, and you ain't seen nothing going on.
That's a fact.
yeah, we were
right.
in Santee several years ago and fishing about 2 foot of water. It was probably 3 o'clock in the morning. We all fell asleep on the boat. Woke up because we turned the clickers on, and there was about a 40-pound flathead had swam from the left side of the pontoon all the way under the boat to the right side and had tightened it up, and the clickers were going off. He swam. He had to been, a foot under us in shallow water, and woke us up, there snoring and rolling around, and we heard him break water behind us when we picked the rod up out of standing. And you'd never thought a big fish like that being that shallow water. But who's it? Paul Blackwell down at Santee caught up. Was it a 92 in 2 foot of water? They live. They sure do. I don't care what anybody says. They're in shallow water.
92 and 2 foot of water. You had to see if it was during the daytime, you'd have to see the fin on the water like a shark.
Right.
You think so?
Yep.
Well,
Gavin, what's your biggest fish down there around Santee? Or do you get to go, or your daddy hold that to himself?
He's been going since he's in a car seat. We take him down there.
That's what I was thinking.
That's cool.
Yeah. So whoops.
Probably 30.
Yeah, he's never caught a real big one in the 30s, I guess.
That's a great fish any day.
Yeah.
But now, can you give some information? Because Santee can be intimidating. You got stump fields, you got long stretches of shallow water that can be very dangerous. What would you tell somebody that's never been there that wants to go fish, where to maybe put out and where to even start to look for catfishing for this time of year?
Find avionics on your phone or your depth finder. That's your best friend. That place is dangerous. I've been going in there since I was a kid, and I still don't trust myself to run wide open in the upper lake. Just, it's dangerous. But right now, if it was me, I would fish this time of year, the upper lake out in front of Harry's around Bass Island, or go on up lake to 16 Island, fish some of those channel edges.
Got you. Yeah, Lyle, that place down there is, it has eat and spit a lot of people out. That lake has.
I've heard a lot of good things and bad things both about it. Creole Catfishing says Catfish Weekly is fishing in 25 foot of water in 120 foot depth River considered shallow water fishing? Asking for a friend. I would say yes. In 120-foot whole section of river, if you're in 25 foot, I would say that is shallow water. Not that it wouldn't get more shallow, but that's pretty shallow for 120. And I know the further south you go on that Mississippi, the deeper it is, because we sound some 140 and 150 foot spots on that Mississippi River down below Memphis. And I know Larry Muse, he says he goes for the deepest spots he can find. But for me, there's areas that's too deep. Just like for me, there's areas that's too shallow. So,
yeah.
But now,
I'm not fishing them deep holes.
But now we don't want to leave nobody out because we do have a lot of bank fishermen in here, Justin and Gavin. They are times on Santee that you leave the boat at home, ain't they?
Oh, yeah. In spring of the year, you go down there and bank fish, down around Russellville Flats and places like that. You can wear them out in the spring of the year, bank fish.
Now, do you know why that is?
I have no idea. It's just where I went with my daddy.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know. We just always did good down there that time of year. And one reason is the rediversion canal. They have the herring run, the spring herring run, and they pick those fish up with a fish lift out of the river and dump them into the canal. And those catfish just congregate in there and just feast. I mean, they just fill up, gorge themselves on those big herrings. So that's why.
Now, when you guys talk about the canal down there, is that a diversion canal that diverts you away from something?
Well, there's two canals. There's the diversion canal, which connects the two lakes, and then there's the rediversion, which runs off the back of the upper lake into the river.
Okay.
I don't even know the purpose of them. I don't know the purpose of that one. I have no idea why it's there.
We have a canal on the Mississippi River that diverts you around, and it's actually the last lock on the Mississippi River. And the reason for that is because of the Chain of Rocks Bridge. It's dangerous for any water crafts to go over it most of the time, unless it's in flood condition. And that way you go around back. It's kind of made a diversion canal in there, and then it's made a little island, and then they lock barges and water crafts through that, so you don't have to go over that canal. But of course, if you're Jason Mathena, you just shoot over it. You know where to go through, and you jump the chain of rocks coming back through with your mother in there, because he's got cojones that are this big, man, and he knows how to do it. And there's some other guys down there that knows how to do it. But I got to tell you, if I was going to do that, which I'm not going to, I'd want to be in a boat with Jason. But yeah, that chain of rocks. I've heard stories of him jumping it 2 foot up. That pro cat jumping it 2 foot, going back up river over that Chain of Rocks bridge, which is an old bridge that's been gone for as long as I can remember. But it used to be traffic bridge and not or railroad or something. But yeah, he'll go right down through there and bust her up. There comes a point in time when he can't get through it. But if it's possible to get through it, and it's tournament day, old Jason, he's going through there.
Oh, yeah, he's a man.
Yes, he is.
Now, Santee, it's actually got a city or two underneath the water of it, don't it?
Yeah. I think
it
was the war started and they weren't.
It was World War II. They was actually excavating and cutting timber and all that out of there when the war broke out, and they decided to go ahead and shut the dam up and flood it. And they flooded. I think there's two whole towns underneath there, and that's why you got that one place where the standing timber is, the dead forest or whatever they call it. Allow that place, you come up through there 40 foot of water, and there's treetops coming out of the top of that water. And you see stumps cut in a V, where these idiots, I've sat and watched bass boats come through there running 60 miles an hour. But over on the other bank, you'll see about 4 or 5 bass boats with the whole back end tore out of them.
Yeah. People can get lucky, but everybody can't be lucky at the same time.
Yeah.
And some of them will make it through there, but there's a percentage of them that won't. I want to be the guy that don't even get out there and worry about it. If it's that bad, you know, we get a lot of that on the Missouri and Mississippi River in the spring and flood times. And I've been on it when it was probably bad enough I shouldn't have been. But you're careful. When them guys in them bass boats, they're running 2/3 or 3/4 throttle. They don't care if they're in them things or not. They don't have no regard for their own life or their boat or their equipment or anybody that's riding with them. There's a problem there.
Now, y'all ever go down there and catch them big bluegill? Because I've heard they got some monster shell crackers and bluegill down there.
Always wanted to go down there and do that, but I've never been able to. I'd love to get. What is it? It's a 5-hour trip from here. So
Right.
I say it's kind of one of those things you just got to go when they're on. So it's kind of hard to plan to make a trip down there, when they're on. So.
Right.
Is that down there where Junior Proctor fishes all the time?
Junior fishes Monticello and Murray.
Marion
Okay.
and Murray. Yeah, he
would-
fishes. Go ahead.
I would think if he deal with them shell crackers was on down there, it'd be worth the trip, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, now he fishes at Monticello. Now you fished Monticello before, hadn't you, Justin?
Yeah, I despise it.
I love a man with honesty.
That Fishing Creek, I hate both.
I've heard a lot of people say that Monticello, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it.
Yeah.
It's a lake that don't have a river in it, Lyle. They built this lake beside the river, and they pump water in and they pump water out. So there is no river channel or nothing in it.
Huh.
And standing timber everywhere.
Yeah.
Kevin says it's down by him.
Yeah, we fished down there. Dad liked to go down there in the winter and fish around the warm water discharge, and we did good. I mean, but I just ain't no river channel. I just didn't like it. I don't know.
Junior's saying Santee, fish Santee. He loves Santee. But that lake can be intimidating. We talked to Josh on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about fishing it in that rough water. And the lower lake on Santee, it's a bowl shape, and you talk about something, it don't take long to whoop it up in a frenzy, does it?
Oh yeah, that's what I tell all these guys from around here that take off to get down there and fish. And I tell them it'll kill you if you don't know what you're doing. That place will kill you. Yeah. Gavin was a young. He was probably 7 or 8, and we went down there one time in November. And the game wards were at the landings. They wouldn't let us launch a boat. The weather was so bad. And the next morning we went out of Harry's and went in the upper lake and saw a keel of a sailboat sticking up out of the water. And pulled up near the trees, and the sailboat had capsized. Well, we got up there and there was a woman tangled up in ropes about 8 foot down. They had been out in that stuff. 3 of them had died. And I said, place crazy. It's dangerous. So,
People just take them chances. They think they can outwit Mother Nature. And guys and gals in here, it ain't worth taking that chance, chasing them fish and that kind of taking that chance. It's just not. Just when you think you got Mother Nature whooped, she'll throw something at you you've never anticipated. And it's a rogue wave or anything can catch you sideways. Or like a lot of these new boats, the keel, the back of the boat, the transit is pretty low on some of these boats. And really, that kind of worries me about oncoming waves that hit you in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why fish have a big old pontoon.
But now, them pontoons can get nervous when you head face into a storm, can't they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had one lift in front of mine up year before last down here. 30 mile one way and it's blowing 30 mile an hour the other. It gets scary.
Yeah. But you had to hold it together because of the people on the boat with you, didn't you?
Yeah, you got to act like
Oh, Lord. But now, you've got to fish off of Richard's boat and stuff like that. And, yeah, I think the V-hull boats do give you a little bit of advantage as far as drifting for fish.
Yeah.
But when it comes to anchorfish and be able to kick back and relax, you prefer that pontoon over any of them, wouldn't you?
Oh, that's me. I love pontoon. Of course, I'm a dizzy person anyway. You know, I got some issues with balance, so I like that big platform to walk around on. So, Lyle, I got a question. I've never heard this. What's your personal best catfish?
87 flathead, 67 flathead, and 66 blue.
Really? That's a monster flathead.
And I'm not a flathead fisherman. Doc Lang's a flathead fisherman, but
That is a pig. Where'd it come from?
Mississippi River.
Wow. God,
So the blue.
man.
That Mississippi River. I know that people talk about these big reservoirs and lakes, but I'm going to tell you, if you know how to fish that river, there's more bigger fish in that Mississippi River than any other body of water in the United States. But you got to find them. You got to fish for them. There's guys that are really, really good at it, and there's guys that struggle a little bit. But my favorite time is when them babies are stacked underneath them dams and they're running water through them dams and they chop up or they spit out that bait fish coming through there, and all them big boys and girls just sitting there with their mouths open, waiting for that stuff to come through there. If you can find the seam between the locks that the fish are actually in, because they're not in all of them, you find that right one, and you're going to have a day that you have never had before.
Really?
They'll sit there and you'll catch 20s, 30s, 40s, 60s, and bigger, one right after the other. But when they move, they're gone.
Really?
Yeah. But that's some of the best fishing that I've ever had has been on the Mississippi River below dams. And we caught Cindy and I used to go down there below Clarksville because it was close to home. And we'd fish at night down there because it was so hot in the daytime. And it's lit up and all the bugs go to the lights to the dam. So you're not fighting those mosquitoes and all that stuff. And I caught a big flathead down there one night. And then we told my brother about it. And we decided we was going to go the next night. So we go down there and I seen my brother's truck and we pulled out to go up there at the dam. And he was sitting right where I'd caught that flathead that night. And we went down to a wing dike and we hadn't been down there very long. And I got a phone call and it was my brother. And he said, "Do you have a camera with you?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, Do you have a scale?" I said, "I do. Don't you have any of that stuff?" And he said, "The scale ain't big enough, and I don't know how to use a camera on my phone." I said, "I'll be right there." And we got up there, and it was a 65-pound blue sitting in the same spot that I caught that flathead in the night before.
Really?
And it's probably half-mile across that river there, I'd be my guess. It's over between a quarter and a half. And he said it almost spooled him when that thing hit. It went straight across the river right in front of all them locks before he got it turned and coming back.
Oh, yeah, I bet
in that current. And Mark has got some health issues, and he was sitting down. We got his picture and got it weighed and got the fish back in the water because them things, everybody turns them good fish like that loose. And he sat down and put his stuff up, and we was sitting there visiting with him, kind of tied off onto there, and he had his grandson with him and his wife. He said, "I'm done." He said, "I'll stay as long as they want to fish." He said, "But I'm done. That's the end of my night. I've done made my day." And he put his stuff up and let them fish.
Really?
Yeah, he was just beat. I mean, it just wore him out. But, I don't know what the current value is underneath that dam when they're running a bunch of them locks open, but it's pretty hot. Oh, and you got to have a good anchor to hold you. And he did. And it's a fabulous place to fish when it's on and they're biting them. But if they're not, it's just like any other place. You need to give it a while, pick up, and move along.
A question on your rigs, Justin. I know that you use 7,000s and you've got 6,500s also. What's the reason and why you use two separate reels like that?
Well, to 100% be honest, is I started out fishing with 65s, and then for some reason I found 7,000s when I was about 20, and just like that big reel and bought them. And I run 30-pound test on the 7,000s. And the 65s, when I was drift fishing, that's what I used to drift with. And the only reason I got two different kinds is because I'd use the 7,000 anchor, the 65s drifts. That way I didn't have to tie different rigs. I just had a different set of rods I'd grab.
Gotcha.
And anchor fishing, I like using the 30-pound heavy mono. So.
Right. But now, when you flathead fishing, you really prefer them 7,000s because you got a little more drag to put down on them, right?
Drag, a little heavier drag. And that 7,000, that thing's a winch. It really is. Compared to a 6,500, I mean, it's just a different reel to me. Especially if you have somebody build them and put the good drag washers in them, they're a winch.
So you run what, 20-pound on your 65s?
Yeah, 20-pound on the 65s.
Oh, I got us a spool of that green line that we use, that Andy today.
Oh, really?
A big spool. Yeah, I got us a bill while I was down there at Jamie's. So I was letting you know if you need to fill any up. Got any questions, Lyle?
I got to tell you, you guys are talking about that 20-pound monofilament. My cousin Gene, God rest his soul, he's dead and gone now, but he told me one time there is not any fish in the Mississippi River that you can't catch on 20-pound monofilament.
I don't doubt that, honestly.
Now, old Lyle, he uses 80-pound braid. He ain't taking that 20-pound monofilament chance.
Those 7,000s, that's what I had, was 80-pound. Something Pro braid. What is it called? Power Pro braid.
Yep.
That's what I spooled all those 7,000s up with. It went to Santee. About the fourth cast, backlashed one, and had to cut it out. And when we got back to the room that night, I cut the rest of it off and went and got me some mono again. I said, I'll never use this again.
For you, and I know we're supposed to be talking about other stuff, but for years, I wouldn't let Cindy use braid. I kept monofilament on her stuff because I was so afraid that she'd get her hand in between the rod and the braid and the big old fish, because she was catching big fish for every time we went out there for a while, and I was afraid it'd cut her to the bone. And her little hands are about half the size of mine, and they're soft. Not that braid will cut through a tough man's hand, because they will, but I was worried about that. And one day she got to fishing, and she got to picking up rods that I normally used, and she didn't get hurt. And I thought, well, you know what? We're just going to spool them all up the same, and I ain't got to worry about it. And I got a deal on a 3,500-yard spool of this Suffolk 832, and she's never looked back. I still kind of worry about her, and I don't know why, because she's as experienced as most men. She knows what she's doing, but when you're the one doing it and you know what it'll do, you think you've told somebody how serious it is if you get cut by that, but in your mind, you're always thinking, do they really understand what I'm saying? Because that stuff will cut you faster than any knife that there's ever been, and it'll hurt you bad. But she does very well with it, and every time we take someone fishing, whether it be my son or grandkids or whatever, we warn them about that. Don't get your hands here and here and here. And it'd probably be smart if I do some monofilament stuff, so when we take somebody out, that risk is gone. But so far, nobody has had any problems with it, and hopefully we never do.
But that 80 pounds is a little bit thicker than 20 pound.
Yeah, but when one of them big ones get on you and that rod's bent over, it don't make no difference.
It'll burn right through to the bone.
If it's pulling that drag, it don't matter.
No, it don't matter. I just can't stand the sound of braid going through my eyes and all my reels. It's like fingers on a chalkboard to me. It just drives me freaky. I can hear it on people's videos. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, man.
But now, as far as brush and stuff, I think I like mono a little bit better because it's more abrasion resistant around rocks and trees and stuff like that. It can take it because I don't care what kind of braid I've tried, and I've tried it all from years ago when it first come out. I think what was spider wire was the very first that really come out, except that older braid. I still got 2 old reels that's got that old braid on there. But as far as that little small braid and stuff, I've tried a lot, and depends on the application as to when I would go to mono or to braid when I bass fish. And that was mainly because if I fished around heavy brush or whatever, pitching jigs or whatever, I stuck with mono. But making long casts, pulling daggum crankbaits or stuff like that, I went to braid. But now you fishing around big trees and stuff, Justin, when you and Richard was fishing that one tournament, you hung on to something up there and never even turned him out of the trees, didn't you?
Yeah, that was on Tillery. I hung a stud. I never turned it. Never turned it. It's only one of the only fish I've ever hooked I've never turned, and I could not turn it.
And that was on a 7,000 too, wasn't it?
No, it was on one of Richard's reels. I don't remember if it was a Kuma or it was something besides a 6,500. But yeah, he took off. He hammered a big gizzard shad about, I don't know, big piece about 7 inches long and never slowed down right into the trees. Is a monster. If we'd have got him in, we'd have definitely won the tournament.
So how many times? I mean, like you said, it ain't too many times that you get a fish that you can't turn because, you know, if you got a heavier, say 30-pound line, you can pretty much lock down on him and get his head to start turning. But if you don't get him turned, you know you done hung into a stud, son.
Yeah, we hung one on Santee years ago. A guy that was fishing with us named Donnie, and we actually pulled anchors and chased it. And I would bet my next paycheck it was alligator.
Really?
I mean, yeah, I'll say this day he picked up alligator because we were fishing up in the swamps, to the water, and when it started, and it was going to spool a 7,000, so we pulled anchors and chased it, and it finally broke off, and that was when I was running that 80-pound braid. Now that I think about it,
Dang right.
I got a question here from Fishing with the Squirrel. Is that why you use a level line bait caster? And no, that's not the reason I use them. The reason I put braid on bait casters is I can get so much more of it on there. And instead of fishing with 20 or 30-pound mono, I can use 80-pound test and put twice or 3 times as much of it on a reel. And that's why I like the braid, and I do not like the stretch on monofilament. I want the rod to do its job with the action of the rod and the drag on the reel to do its job. If both of those do what they're supposed to do, there's no need for a line to ever stretch.
Right.
My opinion.
Well, you might allow, I mean, I know you don't like mono, but if you would ever try the Andy line, you might like it. It don't have a whole lot of stretch. It don't have a whole lot of memory, and it breaks just about. If it says 30 pound, that's about where that line's going to break.
That's
so you know specifically. Who's that, Justin? We know that it says Pacific instead of specific. But you know pretty much.
Buy some of it as soon as I find some. I'll probably buy a spool of it.
Yeah, that Andy, it's Andy Monster is what we go with. Ain't that what it's called, Justin? Andy Monster. Yeah.
I run the blue, which I love that blue, but it's hard to see. That's the only thing.
As much as Dieter Melhorn likes that stuff, he ought to send me a roll just to try out.
Yeah, he should.
But I want a big roll. I don't want one of them tiny ones. You need one of them big spools.
He could just send you a.
That's exactly right. Next time I talk to old Dieter, I'll tell him that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, him and Jeff Manny both use it. And, you know, when I first got back into it, I used big game because I used Berkeley for years. And then I broke down. I said, what the heck? I got to try it because they talk. If Jeff Manning says it, I mean, Dieter, you just never know about Dieter, but he's been a long time fisherman. So you kind of believe what he says when it comes to line because he don't want to lose fish either.
No, he doesn't.
But when Jeff Manning shows, and Jeff used the blue too, and I love to look at that blue on them reels, but I'm like Justin, you can't see that stuff.
Oh, you can't. But, me and Brian, the guy I fished with, were talking the other night about it, and he runs the yellow or the green, whatever it is. And
it's yellow.
At nighttime, you can't see it either. I mean, so that's what we were talking about. After April, I strictly fish at night till, September, October. So you can't see any of it at night.
That's right.
Well, a lot of guys put them UV lights on there, and that UV light make that yellow pop.
Yeah,
you can see it then.
Yeah. I'm just redneck. That's too fancy for me.
Michael Murillo says that what pound test would you want him to send you, Mr. Lyle? Better be specific with him. Well, to 20 or 25 be just right. if it's coming out of Dieter's hip pocket, I really don't care.
There you go. Oh, yeah.
You was talking about them lights, and I don't mean to keep bringing this up, but Roger, Muskrat Adventures, he done some lights on his boat, and they looked really good, and he posted some pictures about that, and I'd sent him some message about the lights and stuff, and he'd sent me some more pictures other than what he posted, and those things are amazing, the way they lit that stuff up, and the way that I've seen other guys, like you guys was talking about, the way they light up your line and rods and stuff at night, that's got to be a benefit to a guy that has trouble seeing stuff like us old guys. And I when I say old guys, I mean James Dockery and Fishing with the Chad and myself.
I was waiting on a punchline to come in here.
Like a lion or a big old goat or something. I don't know.
Now,
been pretty nice to old Dockery tonight. He wasn't nice to me the other night, but I've been pretty nice to him. I just thought I'd get my gouge in while I had a chance.
there you go, right.
Oh, yeah.
But now you getting to fish our home lake of Lake Wiley. And that's a very unique lake, to say the least. It can be very fickle.
Yeah, I have trouble at Wiley. I really do. It's hit or miss with me. It's feast or famine, I guess.
It's got it's got so many white perch on there that is ungodly. And that's one fish that I think Justin has just about as much trouble finding that cotton picking. And there's tons of it in that lake.
I didn't believe it existed till about a year and a half ago. I thought it was a big lie. Because everybody, I caught 400. I'd go out there and fish all day and catch 2 brim. I said, they don't even exist. I'm going to mount the first.
But when you do find them, you understand why they can catch 400. It will turn your screen crazy. It just looks like a bowl of spaghetti down there, all them things running wild.
Yeah,
but it's a blast. But I think that was one of the main reasons why Wiley finally got turned on to growing some of the bigger fish.
Yeah.
But now Mountain Island, another lake that you love fishing like that, it has perch in it, but they don't go crazy like that in that lake. Why do you think that is?
To me personally, I mean, I'm not a biologist. I don't know, but Wiley has a huge population. Baden has them. Mountain Island has them. Norman has them, but they just don't explode on those other lakes. But those other lakes have striper in them too. I think those stripers keep them knocked down. I mean, I might be totally wrong. I don't know. But it just seems
they also stock them with hybrids too, don't they?
Yeah, and Wiley has neither one, so that might explode.
Now, Watery also has striper on there too, and maybe that's why they just don't take over Watery either.
Yeah, I don't know what the reason is, but Wiley's got a bumper crop of them, more than I've ever seen. Now Santee's got a lot of them too, but they're all the ones on Santee are really small. You know, you don't 4 or 5 inches maybe. You don't catch big pounders like you do on Wiley.
Yeah, you can catch some of them big monsters up there on Norman too, can't you? Them white perch.
Yeah, I don't know the rhyme reason. That's a weird little fish.
Yeah, that's Now, do you fish much on Norman for cats?
I used to back with my dad years ago. We used to do a lot of jug fishing on Norman at night, but it got so busy with all the bars on the lake, it kind of got unsafe to fish at night. So we quit.
Now, did you shallow water fish that lake also?
No, Dad liked deep water. He was one of them old timey people. You know, catfish don't live in nothing 30 feet.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I just wondered because I know that lake is also a pretty good sized lake and can be intimidating for somebody that's never been on that lake.
That lake, I think.
Right. But, you know, I fished it years ago, bass fishing, and, you know, bass fishing, you chase them shallow unless you fish in wintertime. So, you know good well, you find a cove, you run up in there and you make your cast or whatever. But catfishing, would you basically, for a lake that size, would you run up in some of the coves or in the backs of creeks and stuff and try that first if you've never been on that lake?
That's where, me and Richard fished that tournament there last year. And that's where we fished mouths of creeks. And when we did good, we didn't win it, but we caught a lot of fish. Down around the Mountain Creek area, down where Mac Byram fishes a
right.
lot. I think that's
right.
But,
so if you want to tell somebody to take a lake and wanted to go out and put meat fish on the boat, numbers, this time of year, where would you tell them to start on any lake? Say lake.
Creek right now is where I'd start. And hunt, right this time of year where we live, find mussel beds around creek mouths. That's where I do the best at right now.
Now, are you saying that you find the majority of your mussel bed searches in mouths of creek banks or mouths of creek inlets?
I do, and around.
Why is that, do you think?
Say what?
Why is it you find them there instead of somewhere else?
I don't know. I have no red clay banks. I look for red clay banks. Seem to find them around there or mouths of creeks.
Well, usually if you can find a good muzzle bed, you can find catfish.
Yeah, yeah, any size.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They'll sit there, eat them until they can't crap them out anymore, I guess.
Yeah,
and I've noticed, I'm like you, Justin. I think I've noticed more that right after the spawn is when they're coming off and they're hungry. There's nothing in their bellies. It seems like that's when they really load down heavy in them things.
Yeah.
To me, it's like they just got to put something in their belly just to fill that space. But I think it's more is that a muscle's probably nothing but pure protein.
Yeah,
I would say that's probably a pretty good statement there. I pretty much agree. And
Dieter in the house, you better hit him up, Lyle.
Dieter's in the house. Dieter, I'll be expecting that big spool of Blano to be showing up here next week. Since you just now got here, you can go back and listen to it. And
4 yards.
What's that?
I said 4,000 yards of Andy.
Yeah, biggest one they make. I take 20 or 25 pounds of that Andy's monster. You just ship her on out here, and I'm going to test her out for you, and I'll let you know how I like it.
Dieter wants to know what that deer behind you scored, Justin.
The one right behind me was 155.
That's a great deer.
Yep.
Yep.
Bow or gun?
Say what?
Bow or gun?
That deer was a muzzleloader deer. We'd had this deer on camera for several, or not, but a few muzzleloader hunting, and had shot a doe right up here above my house, and walked to the house to get the 4-wheeler to load her up. And when I got back, he had his nose about that far up her rear end, and I shot him, and he fell on top of her. So it's kind of cheating, but it wasn't cheating, I guess.
Hey, whatever works when they're that big.
So when you go out, and let's say you decided tonight I'm going out looking for flatheads, what do you specifically look for to set up? Like right now, we're fishing late summer. What do you look for, and why do you go set up there to start fathead looking?
Right now, I fish a lot of points, but I find wood, any kind of trees, lay down, or rocks, but mainly, trees, blowdowns, logs, stuff like that. I like fishing old boathouses too. We talked about that. The old boathouses years ago. I like concentrating on personal boat ramps, old concrete boat ramps in people's yard. I like fishing around those. If you watch,
we had talked about that for about a year or two, about them old boathouses, the one that's been on the lake for years and years and years, and we got a lot of them on Wiley that looks like they're about to fall in the water. I'm like you. I got a feeling that there's got to be an old flathead done took up shelter there.
Oh yeah, and every crappie fisherman in the world's put Christmas trees around it for 100 years and sunk any kind of log, anything. So I like concentrating on stuff like that. But now that helix with side imaging has changed my game flathead fishing, because now I can see them.
That's an amazing piece of equipment, man.
Yeah, that'd be I want to go out one weekend and do that. Just go out and just scan some of them older boathouses. Go ahead and mark them on our GPS, know where they at, and just go out and do some scanning and see what we see. I guess during the best time will probably be, what do you say, Lyle, midday when the sun's shining the brightest and they're going to be hid up in there not feeding. But it'd probably be the best time to scan, wouldn't you think?
It doesn't seem to matter to me. I'll go anytime. That side scan, the only thing I like as well as side scan on a Humminbird is I got that 360 imaging. And I'm going to tell you right now, it don't matter where they're at. It'll pick them babies right out of there.
Yes,
and I don't have the new Mega. And once I get that, it's supposed to be so much better than the unit that I have. There might not be no stopping. I love the one I got. And the clarity on the new model is just like anything else that any of the companies, whether it be Lowrance or Humminbird or Garmin, it doesn't make any difference. Every time they come out with something new, it's way better than what they had before, even though what they had before was absolutely great. The technology is that much better. And this 360 unit I got, I mean, it'll pick them out of almost any kind of structure. But the new Mega imaging is so much better. If it's as good as what everybody tells me it is, and I've heard nothing bad about it yet, that you'll be able to find where they crapped last night with that thing. And there ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it blew my mind when I first plugged it in. I was like, good.
Yeah, they're great machines. And I know that the new Lowrances are just as good. If they wasn't guys like Doc and Brent and some of them guys, they wouldn't have them. They just wouldn't. But they know how to operate them. And that's what 90% of it is. If you've had one your whole life, you don't want to learn something new. You want to use what you pretty sure you know how to operate. And they're all good. But I would definitely like to get in the boat with somebody that has the new Garmin, and Sonny Parker's promised to take me out. He's got one with that. What is it they call that, James? The
3D.
Well, what is it?
The live scope.
Live scope, yeah. And he says, you can pull up to a brush pile over crappie and you can decide which one you want and fish that specific fish if you want to.
But from what I understand, you have to be sitting completely still, don't you?
I don't know. Don't care. If it's that good, I'll sit still.
Yeah.
They just spot lock me down.
Yeah, I think that was something you was reading, wasn't it, Justin, that you had to be sitting completely still with that one?
Yeah, Chad's got one. He crappie fishes, and it's amazing. You can see the lure go down and the fish come up and eat it.
Yep. Here's a really good statement made by Carl Wells. Customer service will make or break a company. And a lot of these electronic companies some of them take really good care of their people and some of them don't. And I know they get behind on stuff, but if you can't keep up on people calling in about stuff, what you need to do is hire more people that's knowledgeable enough to give the answers and get things fixed before you end up losing customers over that. If you're that busy, you need more people on them phones.
Absolutely.
Well, they can't say they can't hire them because the price of them cotton picking things, they ought to be able to hire 40 more.
That's right.
I bought that new Megan. I was ashamed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I have
ashamed.
really never had any problems with boat motors to speak of over my fishing career. Never had hardly any trouble with electronics. I didn't get along with that Lowrance, but that doesn't mean they're all like that. And most of that probably was me because I didn't like it. Didn't want it, didn't like it, never wanted to learn how to use it. Like I say, Doc Baker dance. I just didn't care for it. I was used to hummingbirds, and that's what I wanted. And that's what we got on the next one. But if a guy is used to them things like Doc is, hey, it's nothing but a thing to him. He just push a couple of buttons and we're rocking. And it'd be the same way with anybody else. But the technology, like I said, every year that they come out with something new, it's far better than the previous year or the previous model. And it's going to continue to be that way because there's no limit to what they can't do with this stuff.
Yeah, it'll be TV before it's over with.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of this technology the military's had for years.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're using it, like the GPS stuff, I can remember the first GPS unit I had. It wasn't exactly dead on when you went back to park someplace that you'd marked the day before in a tournament. It wasn't exactly dead on. But these new ones, they're within inches. I promise you, they are. They are so close. When you go back after pre-fishing a spot, you could go back and nearly throw the anchor where you had the time before, or lock down your spot lock or whatever. And if things hasn't moved, like fish or whatever, if they're still in the same spot, they'll still be there when you go back. Now, if they swim off and go find another spot, they didn't go very far. They're still in that general area. You just go look them up. But this electronics, we got behind several years ago, and it takes a while to get adjusted to the new stuff. Once you don't update, say you wait 10 years like I did because you didn't want to spend the money on a new one. But when you do, you're just so blown away at how much better things are since you bought that last one. But you can't make them last. You can't make them, you keep up with them every year. I can't. Some of these guys, they buy new ones every year and it doesn't bother them. It bothers me.
It bothers me.
Yeah.
Into the thousands of dollars on a depth finder, it bothers me.
That's right. That's right. They're all like that. I mean, they cost a lot of money. But in the end, if you want to catch fish, you're going to get trolling motors that does what they say they'll do, and you're going to get depth finders and rods and reels, hooks. It doesn't make any difference if it costs 10 cents or if it costs $1,000. If it makes you catch more fish and you can justify it in the entertainment factor that you got, you're going to buy them.
It's another tool in your tackle box.
That's exactly right, James.
Now, Justin, you know, I know we're getting close to time. Would you say that since you was a Lowrance guy and now that you've got the Humminbird, would you say that the Humminbird is a little more user-friendly than what your Lowrance was?
Absolutely. I mean, I grew up on Lowrance. That's all Dad ever had. So, I mean, that was what I was familiar with. But this Humminbird is a whole lot easier to run than that Lowrance is.
I think so.
I think.
Boys, I'm going to stop you for just 1 second. I just seen that there is SK Crappies Catching Adventures in our chat tonight. If you care about pan fishing, he catches lots of giant bluegill and shell crackers and big old crappie down south. I've been following him and watching his channel for months. and he's a fisherman, folks. If you get a chance, go check him out. I promise you, you will enjoy it. He's as laid back and as much fun to listen to, and he gets his buddy and they fish together. They in their boats and stuff. Very entertaining and extremely enjoyable. And he'll teach you how to tie flies and catch crappie and bluegill. You guys will have a blast watching him. I promise you, he's a great guy and really a good show to watch.
I had to check that out.
Absolutely. I thank him for coming in and checking our show out tonight, because he is an outstanding guy to watch on YouTube.
Hey, you know, like me and Justin and stuff over here in North Carolina, we can use crappie and other sports fish as bait. So if we're going to use that other fish for bait, guess what? We need to know how to catch that other fish.
That's exactly right. And I'm going to tell you, he catches them, man. And on the bad days when he's struggling, he still catches a bunch of them.
Yeah, Junior, he's got a trolling motor, but he's waiting to rebuild his boat before he puts that trolling motor on his boat for drifting. He's wanting to do it. I guarantee you.
I'm going to have to break down and learn to drift. I'm just going to have to break down.
Well, I got to tell you, it'll spoil you. And once you do that, you get you a couple of planer boards and you learn how to do that. You'll do that. You'll still anchor fish, because an anchor fisherman that loves to anchor fish will always anchor fish. But you can cover so much more water and present your bait in front of so much more, many more fish, that if they're feeding, you can have some unbelievable days doing it. And you'll enjoy it. There's no question in my mind.
Yeah, we used to drift fish some on Santee with the wind years ago, but we never did really catch anything real big doing it. I like to fish at night too. So
yeah, it's harder to get me. I don't know how James is, but I don't like, especially on strange water. I don't like pulling boards and drifting a whole lot on strange water at night. Now, if I'm familiar with it, that's one thing. But if I'm not familiar with it, I ain't going to do near as much of it. But in the daytime, it's game on for me, because you won't see me anchored much in the daytime unless it's really cold.
Well, it don't really matter much to me, because I'm liable to make a mess out of every freaking thing on my boat anyway, whether it's nighttime, daytime, or in the mornings or in the evenings. It don't really matter. So I'm liable to throw anything, hit the daggum trolling motor, say, let's go and see what happens.
Justin, we don't care, because as long as he's got that camera on, he's going to play it back. We're going to laugh with him anyhow.
And I don't cut nothing out. You liable to see me fall off in the daggum water. You liable to see me drop a whole cotton picking bait bucket in the water, slam full of bait, and have to start all over. Been there, done that. Luckily, they got a beep button on that camera, so I can beep, 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 beep.
I hear a lot of people anchor fishing because they don't like pull. Well,
yeah.
I don't have a problem. I've got a 120-pound anchor puller right here.
That's right.
And it's a stout youngin' too.
Yeah.
But now really getting back to that anchor really, you can do some very precise anchoring, and you learn some new techniques with Richard and stuff on anchoring too that can take people a long ways. Do you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, Richard Warscout, he taught me more about it. I've always liked anchor fishing, but he has got it to an art. He taught me to mark my spot, where I mark the fish, then back off 200 foot, 175 foot, throw my 100-foot anchor rope, pull down to it. Then you're 75 foot away. Then got a line counter reel with a balloon. You throw it out there, and you've marked your spot where you're throwing it to. Where the fish are. I mean, Richard's got it down. That boy's bad. I will say that about Richard. When it comes to anchor fishing, he's the man. He really is.
And he ain't scared to go right up in there and get after them either.
Oh no, he's like me. He likes to fish thick cover. We got a lot in common. But now Richard likes to fish deeper water. He likes deep
Right.
water. I don't mind deep water. I like shallow water. I don't know why. I just like it.
You catch.
We're gonna get him in here one night too, Lyle.
That's fine, James. Yeah. Yeah, the reason you like that shallow water is because you get a lot of fish in it.
Yeah, and I like to watch them up. I do. I don't know. There's something about
Well,
watching.
that big channel cat that I caught up there, we caught in 2 foot of water.
Yeah.
And he was dancing on the water like a bass. And we had went by a man and his wife and another guy that was fishing in a boat, and they wanted us to sit there and fish beside them. And I didn't want to take their spot because they was tearing them up. You know, they were just catching one right after another. So we went up above them, and I told Cindy, I said, watch this, because it was my good friend J.D. Richardson, and I hauled off and cast, and the bait, they was fishing out of one side of the boat, all of them. And the bait hit right behind them, beside his boat. And JD's a big old boy. He jumped up out of that boat. He said, I tried to get you to pull up and fish down here. And it wasn't very long. And that thing hit, and it started screaming drag out. And I was using the same rods up there for channel cat that we use for blues on the river. And it was pulling drag. Right. And I set the reel back on it, and that thing come up out of that 2 foot of water on its hind end, and it was walking across that. And JD says, I told you, come down here and fish. And I don't know how far we was off, as far as I could cast, however far that was. And we got that in, and it wasn't too long. And Cindy caught 4 of them over 20 in 30 minutes.
That's crazy.
And I'm just, I've told this story numerous times, but unless you've ever been to Lake Mendota and Cherokee and Wisconsin, you've never seen, we fished the Red River, and it was a total blast. Loved it, enjoyed it very much, but there's not that kind of fishery for channel cat that anywhere that I've ever been before. And I mean, them babies, they'll fight you all the way back to the boat. And it's a great time to go up there. And it's in May, right before we was up there in May, right before they went on spawn. They was up there in that shallow water, and get you a bunch of bluegill for baits, all you need.
How big is that place?
Pretty good size. I don't know exactly, but it's pretty good size. But it's real shallow. Now Mendota is a deeper lake, but Cherokee is real shallow. And we hadn't had that boat very long, and we was launching it in there and sucked up a bunch of pea gravel up in the pea hole on the back of the motor. But because I didn't realize it was that shallow, we got out there and it wasn't peeing, and I took the thing off and it was pumping, so I just had to shove something down the hole to get it out when we got back. But I think the deepest place we found on that whole thing was like 7 or 8 foot, 10. And most of it's 2, 3, 4. You run with it tilted up as far as you dare to most of the time, and the whole lake was like that.
Jay's Catfishing wants to know, Justin, what is something that you cannot leave without in your tackle box? Live without in your tackle box.
Something I can't live without in the tackle. I don't know. Sitting here trying to think.
I don't have a clue either. That thrown me too.
I don't really know. I would say a pistol, but that's probably not what he's looking for.
Yeah.
A good pair of needle nose.
Yeah, I seen there's a couple of School of Life. Grand Slam tournament, yep. You're going to be fishing the Grand Slam tournament, right?
If I don't have my boat tore down by then. If I do, we'll be there. We'll probably be in Gavin's the flying beer can.
Yeah, that young man Lyle done got him a truck and bought him a boat also.
Yeah.
That's what you call a good old country boy right there.
Yeah, you don't call that a boat. That's a death trap.
Setting hooks and crossing ice says where I was up there catching those fish, he said that I was in the back. The main lake's got deeper water in it than that, which I must not ever made it that far. But hell, the way we was catching them, there was no need to go anywhere else. But yeah, I did not know that there was deeper water. We must not ever made it to the main lake. So that's great information. Thank you.
If I'm ever, I'm gonna try that out.
Oh,
You
dude,
daggum right. You daggum right. Because
it is so much fun.
so, what do you figure your biggest channel cat is, y'all?
Mine, good Lord, 5 or 6 pounds, maybe. I don't know. It's probably about the same. No, I take that back. I went out on a guided trip back in 2012. I guess it was after I got out of the hospital. My dad took me out on Lake Murray, and I caught one down there, probably 10 pounds. Yes. We went
Now,
out.
Santee is where the world record come from, 58 pounder. Now, I know there's some controversy about that, but
I've never caught a big. Lake Murray is the only place I've ever caught a big channel, and I've only fished that lake one time with a guide. It was that Fighting the Blues guide service. Yeah.
well, it's 20 after 9, Mr. Lyle.
It is, and I have had a blast, Justin. We can't thank you and Gavin enough for joining us on Catfish Weekly tonight. We have absolutely had a blast visiting with you. I feel like we need to do it again.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed it. I couldn't see chats, but hey, everybody.
Well, and that's part of the deal. Sometimes you can get set up and do it. One of the things that we always had issues with years ago is some people would want to do the show and they didn't either have internet connection or they didn't have the stuff to do it with. But now with the new phones, and that's what you're on tonight, is a phone, right?
Yeah, we're
with the new telephones and stuff that everybody's got. There's really no reason that if somebody wants to do a show with us that they can't. Now, personally, I'd have to figure it out because I use my phone to talk on. Once in a while, a text. The stuff that everybody like you do on a phone, I don't know how to do, don't want to learn how, but if I wanted to, I think I could do it, but I'd have to figure it out. But the phones now will do, they're just small computers. That's all they are, and you got a computer expert sitting right beside you because all these kids, they know everything about phones and computers and stuff. And it makes us handy for us guys that don't know all that stuff.
Whatever we were talking earlier, he had to get me on this thing.
But it happened. And we're so glad that you guys joined us tonight. It was an absolute thrill to have you on here. And like I say, we'll get you back on one of these days and we'll do it again.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
But you're getting ready to head to the big water and do a little fishing, ain't you?
8 in the morning, we're going to the beach. So,
well, good luck, fellas, and lay out one of them big old sharks or something.
yeah, I don't want to catch a shark. I want to catch a redfish or something. I'm tired of catching
Redfish? Cool.
So,
Yep. Y'all be safe.
Yeah,
we thank you for coming in the show tonight, guys, and we look forward to seeing some more pictures, some more videos, and we'll see y'all the next round. We thank you for coming in, Catfish Weekly.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And
Thank
James?
you.
Yes, sir.
We've had a great show tonight.
Yes.
It's been a blast, and
been fun.
It has. I've tried to behave myself. I only got on James Dockery once. He ought to feel good about that. I know that's hard to believe, but as old as he is, I don't think he can handle it much more than that.
Right. And guys, don't forget to look up Team Wampus Cat. That's WAMPUS CAT. Check them out. Subscribe. Enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Share the love with everybody. Everybody, we got a lot of channels in here. A lot of great info on each one of them. We all got a little something to add to each other's life. Enjoy it.
Right.
God bless America, guys.
Heck yeah, man. Thanks for watching Catfish Weekly. See you next Monday night.